Hi and welcome to another tutorial. In today's lesson we'll learn how to recreate this cool looking transition using Premiere Pro. So anyways guys, let's jump in. So the first thing that I have here is I've opened up my Premiere Pro and I've already got my clips imported into my library. I've got some sound effects, some whooshes that we will be using, and I'm ready to go and create my sequence. So these clips are filmed in 3840 from my drone and they are filmed in 30 frames per second. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a new sequence. Now I'm going to create a 4K sequence, but at 24 frames per second. But I am going to change the resolution. So I'm going to go into my settings and I'm going to change it to 3840 by 2160. So now once I have that, I can just press OK. So now before we get started, the first thing that we need to do is we just need to find the in and out points for all of these clips. And they're pretty good, but if you wanted to create in and out points, you press I on your keyboard for the in point, and when you're ready for the out point, you can press O. So it's good advice to do this for all of your clips if you want to, cut out certain sections or anything like that. So I'm going to set the in point there and the out point to over there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag one clip to the timeline, and now because this clip was 30 frames per second and I'm on a 24 frame per second sequence, I'm just going to keep my existing settings. And so therefore I'm just going to grab the other one and I'm going to put them in there. So now I've got these two things, and what we are going to do is we're going to create the transition between them. And so it's quite simple. All we need to do is we're just going to right click on this first clip, and I'm just going to nest it. I'm just going to press OK, and then I'll do the same for the next one. So now I just want to increase the size of this. So I'm going to hold Alt on that video 1 layer, and then I can bring up how tall that section is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this little FX icon, right click and go to time remapping and go to speed. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down to 80%. Now 80% is the maximum I can take this 30 frames per second clip in a 24 frames timeline without it being jittery. And so now it's giving like a little bit of a slow motion kind of effect. So once we've done that, what we need to do is we need to come over here and we need to hold Control, and I'm just going to set a point there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to bring up the speed to probably around about maybe 700, 750. So I'm just going to hold Shift so that it will go up by 5% increments. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this side over here, and I'm just going to bring it over so that I have this ramp that's occurring. So I'm just going to make that a little bit smoother like that. And now if I go through that, it's going to play back at 80% from there. And then as soon as it gets to there, it starts to ramp up. So what we are going to do is we are going to have this ramp kick off and maintain a high velocity up here into the next clip, and then it will slow back down again. Now we'll change some of these parameters after we do the next clip. So now I'm going to bring the next clip back in here, and it's the same process again. Right click, time remapping, speed, and I'm just going to click on a point there. I'm going to bring this up to around about 750%. So I'm going to have to zoom in to get to 750. I'm going to drop the rest of the clip down to 80% because that's our maximum. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this little blue icon and then click it again, and then just make sure that it's smooth like that. And so now if I just play that back, so you can see that we have that speed increase from here. It speeds up and then it slows back down. Now we can make this better. So what we need to do is we need to find the good points for where this transition will actually occur. So now if you want to move some of these things around, you can click on the left hand blue icon and then you can move it closer or whatever, or you can just hold Alt and click any of the icons just so that you can move it around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold Alt and I'm just going to create a ramp that looks something like that. And maybe I can even bring it in a little bit more, just like that. If you have to zoom in, you can do that as well. So now what that will look like is now we've got that speed that occurs just there. So that's looking pretty cool, but we can make it even better. So what we can do is we can go into time interpolation, and then we can change it to optical flow, and we can do the same for the other side. And this just makes that transition in speed look a little bit better. And so now if your computer is struggling to play that back, what you can do is you can go into sequence, and then you can go into render, into out. And so once you've done that, then you can go and preview without any issues with your computer or anything like that. So if we preview that, it speeds up and then it goes back to being slow. So that's looking pretty good. So the final thing that we can do is we can just add some sound effects. So I've got some whooshes here that you can just go and dump into these sections, and you just have to find the ones that actually, you know, fit nicely. And so once you've got your whoosh in there, there's other effects that we can add onto that whoosh. So for example, if I'm just going to drag a studio reverb onto that to give it a bit more effects. So if I go into my studio reverb, and then if I go into, let's say, room ambience, and I can see how that sounds like. So it just gives it a little bit of extra. So the last thing that we can add to this, if we come over here, is if we go and create a new adjustment layer. So I'm going to bring that back down again. And to make it a little bit more cinematic, we can add some cinematic bars in here. So to do that, all we need to do is come over here to the crop effect. We can drag it to our adjustment layer. And then on our adjustment layer, from the top, we just change it to 12. And the bottom, we also change it to 12. And the final thing that we can do is add some Lumetri color correction onto our adjustment layer. So if you just go into creative and you have a look at some of the LUTs, and you can put one onto your clips as well. And so I'm just going to drop down the intensity a little bit of that, maybe bring that up to about 75. So there we have it, a very simple tutorial on how to create a very simple transition with the sound effect that goes from one side to the other side. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys next time.